on the representation that you were doing $700,000 a year. Oh, she said, I grew it to 700. That was 2 years ago. Now I'm doing 250. Okay, so she went like this and like this. Okay, well, of course, I had to do my due diligence, and it was a little bit misleading the way she answered my question. So, at the end of the day, I think, in business, I think there's a personal life and there's a business life. And I'll say this, before I make an investment, I pretty much have to check all the facts and figures and have to have that attitude that I can't trust everything I'm hearing. I want to see facts, I want to see contracts, I want to see due diligence.
Very good. I was actually curious about that on Shark Tank. Like, once you make a commitment live on national television, are you obligated, or can you still do the due diligence? So,
yeah, everything is subject, two sides to due diligence on both sides. I had a gentleman, I bought half of his company for, it was $150,000. And in the due diligence, I found an amazing business that this guy had. I went up to Chicago. He had a customized protein bar, nutritional energy bars. And so you could order, he had any one of thousands of different ingredients you could put in this. So unlike when you go to the health food store, you get it's already made, you could get vitamins added, you could get protein, you could get fiber, you could get this, you could get that on a customized basis, pumpkin seeds, thousands of different combinations. So I go to his place and I walk in and there's hundreds of people walking around with hairnets on, and big machines and all this. This is a small-time business guy. And I'm like, wow, how do you afford all this overhead? Your sales don't support all this. What's going on? Oh, he said, I rent a little corner from this place in the back of this facility, and they do runs in between their runs as they have downtime. So pretty much remnant manufacturing. And I was blown away at how this guy had structured this business, because he was getting it done on a per piece basis, no overhead, locked in on his profit. I was really impressed with this guy's business model, that he could only make money because he had a fixed overhead, himself and one employee. He was getting everything done on a per piece basis, no matter what all the overhead was the rent, the utilities, the insurances, everything in this whole place. So anyway, make a long story short, we entered into the deal to do this deal. He's like, you know what? I just want to wait until Shark Tank airs before we sign the papers. And I'm like, well, no, let's get the deal done now. Well, why? Because the day that the show aired, he generated $100,000 in orders, which his company was 60 grand a year in sales. He did 100,000 in 1 week. Okay?
Thank you, Kevin.
All right? So, and that's one of the reasons why I want to own half of his company. Okay? So, we know as investor sharks that when somebody comes on Shark Tank, we're going to be not only those airings, but they rebroadcast those, plus some of the successful entrepreneurs that come on the show. They get on Good Morning America. They get all of a sudden, this guy, he leveraged it in Chicago Tribune, front page story. Shark Tank exposure builds the company. Well, guess what? Wasn't $150,000 for half? It almost quadrupled what he wanted. Went to over $500,000 for half of his company.
Because his valuation
the valuation went like this. And now, we've found, there's some people that come on the show just for the exposure. We have since found out that that's one of the motivating factors.
Makes sense. Let's jump back a little bit. What kind of friends did you keep as a teenager?
Well, because we lived in a decent neighborhood, and we were on the probably, in real estate they say, buy the cheapest house in a great neighborhood, and that's kind of what we had. Because my mother wanted to be in the right side of town, in the right kind of neighborhood, but we couldn't afford the big homes that, all these other guys had. So, fortunately, from the school I went to the guys I hung out with, they were, well-to-do families. And we were actually, I was, at 11 years old, I took 2 buses to get to my father's restaurant. I'd get done with school at 3. I'd be at work by 4:30, finish up, homework, whatever, and sometimes do it at the restaurant. And I'd get home. I got a ride home because it was a little dangerous taking 2 buses home at 10, 11 o'clock at night. But I did this multiple days a week, and I worked a 40-hour week. So, and my friends, they were all hanging out, doing their thing, which was definitely not working. So, I definitely had the work ethic. In fact, when I was 15, during the summer, I started a driveway sealing business and jumped on a bicycle, knocked on doors, basically selling in Cincinnati. In the wintertime, it got cold. And so if you had cracks in your driveway, when the water got in there and it got cold, the water would freeze and the cracks would get bigger. So I'd knock on their door, and plus the driveways, a lot of times, we go into neighborhoods where they just built these homes, and 2 years later, the asphalt was starting to fade. So I had a beautification, protection and beautification program for these driveways, basically. And so I'd go into a neighborhood, get one driveway done on the cheap, so I could put my sign up across it, and boy, that beautiful black driveway from the asphalt coating that we put on there was a magical transformation. And so that's one of the things I say I look for in an infomercial is we look for products that we sell on TV that have some kind of magical transformation, like an Acme product or a Tony Little fitness product where you're going to get six-pack abs, okay? So I was doing this, literally now, this is close to 40 years ago, doing magical transformations of people's driveways. And so this was a business I started when I was 15 years old in Cincinnati. I'd get done doing my selling and then go hang out with my buddies, okay? And they're, drinking Strohs back in those days, I remember, okay? So,
what was the initial approach that you used to market that business? And did it work?
The
initial, do you remember?
The initial approach, basically the concept there was because I would go in a neighborhood, and I was, if you imagine me, almost 40 years ago, how young I looked, knocking on someone's door, and telling them I'm gonna, want to sell them something. They're like looking over, like, where's the owner of the company? So I was on my bicycle. So I would go through a neighborhood, hit 30 doors, and not get one sale. It was just like devastating. So then I figured out I have to get some credibility. I got to get one. I don't care what it takes. I'll give it away almost just for the labor, for the cost. No labor. I was the labor for the cost of goods. So I would, and I had a partner actually who was 16 we bought a truck so he could drive because we had to go pick up our materials or we couldn't do the work without a vehicle. So I would go in the neighborhood. I was the sales end, and I would get somebody to give us a commitment. Yeah, okay, go. $20, you're gonna do my driveway for $20? Okay, I'm in. And so we'd get one driveway done, then we'd put a sign across the driveway, take some before and after pictures, and then go back in the neighborhood. I'd get 15 to the 30. It was unbelievable. So we needed credibility. And you gotta think about it. In those days, there was all these articles about, there was in our city, and I don't know, every city I think has it, there was the Williams brother clan that would come through town, take a bunch of money from homeowners. They were going to do some kind of gutter cleaning or whatever, and they're going to take your money and be done, and go on and off to, everyone would call the Better Business Bureau of these guys. But so everyone was skeptical, and especially, my age. So getting a piece of credibility in the market was important.
I agree with you. I went through similar. What high school did you go to?
Purcell High School.
And how did you do there?
I did pretty good. I was hardworking, industrious. Graduated third in my class of about 200 students.
No, we don't connect on that one. Did you ever get to work with your dad? I think you said you did, right?
Yes.
In his restaurant?
In his restaurant.
In his restaurant. What was that like for you? Explain. I know you said I went in for this amount of hours, but what was the work like? And did it help that your dad was the owner? Did you get any special treatment, like we would want? Or was it different?
No, I got no special treatment. He treated me just like every other dishwasher that he had, okay? That was, he actually, I got $1 an hour to start. That was my pay. And At that time, minimum wage was $1.40, so I wasn't actually even making, I found out the other dishwashers were making $1.40 an hour, and I was only making $1, so we had to have that conversation at a certain point, because I did a better job, in my opinion, than they did. But no, it was, you know, my father and I, we bonded tremendously at that time, because, you know, here I am, a dishwasher, and one night my father walks in and he said, well, I got the phone call from the chef's wife, and he was in a terrible, terrible accident, okay? And I'm like, oh my God, you know, and he's like, yeah, well, guess what? I don't think he really was in an accident. So what do you mean, Dad? Well, he's not coming in tonight, but I asked his wife, you know, when, you know, so how long is he going to be out? Oh, well, he'll be back tomorrow, okay? So, you know, that was, it was a, you know, the restaurant business, you know, so the chef's not going to show. So guess who was cooking? My father and I. And we're talking steaks and lobsters and some fancy stuff. So
how old were you at that time?
I was 11 years old. So he and I, 11 through about 15. So he and I were in the back rolling up the sleeves, and I'd be cooking and then dishwashing and cooking and dishwashing and back and forth. So I learned at an early age how to cook, and I learned at an early age. I also did not want to be in the restaurant business the rest of my life. So that was, you know, I saw too many things that, you know, look, I wasn't exposed to a lot of different entrepreneurial businesses at that time, but that was one I decided wasn't for me.
Same.
Okay.
Richard Waitley once said, "A man who gives his children habits of industry provides for them better than by giving them a fortune." What does that mean to you?
Well, I think I got this not just from my father. I saw, you know, from my mother's side in the nursery school, etc. Absolutely. I think my father not only did he was so entrepreneurial that in between all of the things he was doing with the restaurant, he was always thinking, you know, we got to find some products, because, you know, the restaurant business, it's ups and downs and has stability at times and then not. And so he would encourage me, and he actually he would read these business opportunity journals and unbelievable things. Like I remember he had a business, and being in the restaurant business, people would scratch the seats and things like that. So we started a vinyl repair business for the restaurants, and there was these heat guns. We bought this little business opportunity. I say he bought it, and then he and I operated the business. And these extremely high temperature heat guns that would, you know, you would match up the vinyl with, you got this color swatch, and we could do before and afters on seats. They had big rips in them. And we started with our own restaurant, and then said, well, geez, we could do this for others. So we were in the vinyl repair business, and then we were doing some vending businesses that he got involved with. And I'll never forget, he got the franchise in Cincinnati for a company called Magic Fingers, which was these little vibrating things that would go in under beds in hotels, and you put a quarter in it, and it would vibrate the bed.
You know those?
Okay? And so he and I, you know, would go around and install these Magic Fingers machines in hotel rooms all over the city. So I was, you know, I had all of this exposure to all these kind of, you know, if you call it today, kind of some crazy, you know, entrepreneurial activities. But it was very exciting for me to see here my father was working 70 hours a week and still looking out for other opportunities. Don't keep, his attitude with me was don't keep all your eggs in one basket. So that was something he said all the time.
It's interesting, a common theme in the 2 or 3 products that you just said you and your father were involved in was, that I just picked up on, is instant results. The same thing, and it sounds like your whole life has been that. And now here you are marketing those types of products, which I think it's interesting how it started like that. Your friends told you, quote, "You've got to be just like your father." Your father told you, "You've got to find something you really want to go out and do on your own." And your mother told you, "Why would you want to have your own business? Just look at your father." with these conflicting messages, Kevin, what made you want to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I think, you know, when I saw the fun and excitement that, you know, there was things I liked about the restaurant business, and you know, my father, you know, he knew so many people in town, and all, you know, the policemen would come in, and the mayor would come in, and the ball players. I mean, one of his restaurants was right across the street from Crossley Field, and this is where a lot of the Cincinnati Reds would come and hang out. So I had autographed baseballs and umpires, and we got tours of the clubhouse and all of that. So, you know, I saw, you know, I kind of liked that kind of lifestyle, you know. So that's really, you know, when I looked at the other side, which was the corporate world, and you know, not that, you know, I didn't think that I could do it, but you know, I tend to get bored easily, and so, you know, I found that, you know, that lifestyle of hanging out with the ball players and you know, and all the fun and excitement, that seemed to be more down my alley, you know. So, you know, my mother really wanted me to be either a doctor or a lawyer, and was very upset. I quit school when I was a junior. I was at the University of Cincinnati, and you know, I'm not proud to say that I was a college dropout. You know, I had, you know, I think part of the challenge I had, I'll never forget when I went in high school. I graduated my senior year. We were in an advanced program. There was about 10 kids that had gone through this program, and we took tests to get college credit. And I started my freshman year with I had college credit for almost all my senior year of high school. So, and so my last year, we had gone through this kind of real close-knit, you know, really pretty cool high-end structure with teachers that, you know, was a very one-on-one type of experience. I'll never forget the first class I went to, University of Cincinnati, orientation to business. There was 800 students there. And, you know, and the second time I went to that class, the teacher didn't show, and he had a video playing. And he's like, so sorry I couldn't be here today, so today you're gonna, you know, this is your instruction, you know, please listen. And there's paper airplanes going through it, you know. I'm like, you know, if the teacher can't show, you know, why do I have to be there? Okay, so, you know, and I got, you know, 20 employees sitting back at the office wondering, where's Kevin? You know, so, because I started a business while I was in college. So, actually, the year between graduating high school into my freshman year of college, I started heating and air conditioning business.
That's my next question.
So,
Tell us about that.
Okay.
Tri-state heating, right?
Correct.
Tell us about that second venture for you.
So, so I had a couple other businesses outside of the driveway sealing that I did, because driveway sealing was summertime only. It had to be warm for you to apply the driveway sealing. But I did some other things. Won't get into all of it, but I had couple little other part-time businesses during the colder months. But so I had bought a little car when I was, you know, 16, and almost paid cash for it. And was you know, because my friends were getting their cars, you know, from the family, and so I wanted to, you know, keep up with my friends and, you know, have my own car type of thing. So anyway, make a long story short, though, I started to work my senior year of high school for a heating and air conditioning company called Train, and they would call new homeowners and tell them that they had an engineer who was out in the neighborhood that could stop by and give them a quote on air conditioning. Because in those days, and this is now back in the, I guess, late 70s, or mid 70s, many homes in Cincinnati didn't have central air conditioning. And in the summertime, it got brutally hot. I mean, very hot and humid, almost like temperatures here. And so it was, you know, if you could walk in and show people for $39 a month, they could have an air conditioning system, what a deal. So that's what we did. And we went out and we had appointments set up to tell people how, because nobody wanted to write a check for $3,000 or $4,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, whatever the number was. But if we could show them how to finance it at $39 a month, what could be so bad? So I, as a salesman for the Train company, I was selling 2 to 3 systems a week part-time and then a light bulb went off. Well, geez, I think I could do this as a business. And I started a company then called Tri-State. And what I did was, I don't want to call it Harrington's, because that sounded, like, Kevin Harrington, who am I? I'm a young kid, So Tri-State, which Cincinnati is in the Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky area, so Tri-State was kind of a big sounding word. And so what I did was I took a full page Yellow Pages ad out the first year, and I put 4 different